All over it. So yeah, officially welcome everyone to tonight's Thompson Brothers mega virtual tasting almost. Obviously it's a double pack. We'll only be tasting 6 tonight, but like I said, we'll try and get the notes on all of them to everyone later in the wrap-up email. We are kind of sort of joined by the guys at the Elysian Whiskey Bar who are on service, Kelvin and Yao. They're popping in where they can to provide us some great info on these whiskies and rums. For those who aren't aware, Kelvin and Yao are the importers and distributors for Thompson Brothers here in Australia. They know the Thompson Brothers quite well. And they also distribute some other amazing brands like Whiskey Age, Whiskey Blues, which we did earlier in the year, I think. But yeah, tonight's going to be a little bit different. Ollie and I are going to launch the poll shortly, and everyone needs to vote for their top 6 that they want us to taste through. The top 6 whatevers, because we've got rums and whiskey. With the most votes will be what we taste and talk through tonight. Like Ollie said, the only caveat is if there's more than one rum in the top 6, we might have to sub in some of the whiskies underneath. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to some rums, so I won't be able to taste any of them, but I have got the very fun info ready for you if we do get any rums on the list. Yeah, I'll quickly chat over the housekeeping while everyone pops their votes in. Should be multiple choice, so pick your top 6. Housekeeping, as usual, please don't drive after any of these tastings, especially if you decide to do the extended edition and go through all 12 samples tonight. Please, please, please don't drive. We highly recommend RSA and responsible drinking. If you've got 6 glasses, so you can go back and compare what we're tasting tonight. Otherwise, at your own pace, because there is obviously extras. We highly recommend having glassware, but if you don't, that's totally fine. All the tastings are recorded as well for anyone who wants to watch them back who can't join us tonight. They'll be up on our YouTube channel, so like and subscribe, as the YouTubers say. I feel so old when I say that. And as always, we'd love to see your tasting notes and questions in the chat. I'll do my best to get answers for all of them if possible. Obviously, Kelvin and Yao will come in with answers if they are able to. They'll be in service mode at the bar, but we'll squeeze as much info out of them as possible on each of the bottlings that you guys pick. It's going to be an extra fun test of our knowledge as well, because particularly for them, they're getting this dropped on them last minute. So it should be all good. Might leave the
push it our way through like bullets.
Yeah, this is like blind info tasting. It's like quick fire test. But
well, everyone but one person has voted, so if you can get your vote in, we can get this tasting started.
Oh, is that us? Are we voting as well? No.
No, you don't get a vote.
Yeah. I think it might be me, but just go for it.
You don't get a say.
Yeah, I think it might be me. Just go.
All right. Shall I? Oh, this is so interesting.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, you're going to be so upset. The JMWP did not get as many votes as I thought it would.
The long pond didn't get any love, not much love.
That's okay. JMWP was kind of sell by itself, really.
Yeah. All right, I will hit end and share the result. So here we go. Drum roll.
Alrighty. Quite an array of lineup there. Both of the grain whiskies.
Oh, very good.
Very exciting.
That's good, because they're both actually super delicious. So.
I'm so excited.
Emma, do we have a tie?
I think we do. So we've got, looking at it, the Invergordon, the Strathclyde, the Speyside, and the Tomatin are definites. And then we've got the Blair, Athol, Craigellachie, and the Ardlair are the other 3 that are tied. So,
Kelvin, which one of those last 3 would you prefer us not to taste? And if there's time at the end, maybe we'll get to it.
What was it? The Ardlair Tomatin, was it? No.
The Craigellachie and the Blair Athol.
Maybe no Blair at all.
No Blair Athol.
Give me a sec. Let me see. Barret's a dark sherry, and Dailuaine is also the dark sherry.
No, Craigellachie, Dailuaine, Ardlair. Craigellachie, Blair, Athol, Ardlair. Right.
Well, they're already tasting the Dailuaine dark sherry, so you might as well.
Yeah, maybe no Blair.
Maybe no, yeah, no Blair.
The Dailuaine's not on there.
Dailuaine's not there? Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
Got
Oh, then,
slightly lower score.
oh, then.
Take out the Craigellachie.
Take out the Craigellachie.
Yeah.
So we'll do
One
the
sherry.
Ardlair and the Blair Athol as the whiskies number 5 and 6.
Yep.
Yeah. Because Craigellachie, I guess they can just drink on their own time. It's a really great whiskey as is, so you don't. It's kind of doesn't need any extra. It's delicious.
Awesome.
The Ardmore should be in there because it's interesting to taste unpeated Ardmore.
Honestly, look, I mean, yes, I was hoping before as well, and it's such a rare thing. I think I've only seen maybe 3 Ardlairs ever in my career. So yeah, definitely a really cool one to try.
What's the whiskies again?
So I'm about to put the tasting order in the chat.
Yeah, excellent.
Please excuse me. I mean, look, we should have that what's that elevator music?
Oh.
Stuff like this for next time. Alrighty.
What 600 virtual tastings since 2019, and we've never done this before. So this is a first for us.
Oh my god.
Yeah, super new, super exciting. I am very keen for it. I will say, look, the notes that I got on the rums are really interesting notes. So we will definitely be sending them to you because I had to research really hard. I don't know as much about rum. All right. So, well, let's get cracking into it. Not to dilly-dally, we're going to start with the Invergordon 35-year-old, which I think is the oldest one tonight. This is classic me, starting with the oldest whiskey. But yeah, super excited. Kelvin, is there anything you can tell me about this release specifically that is particularly new, interesting, or exciting? And then I can chat about the distillery itself.
Nothing too different, like great long age grain whiskey, which we know is fantastic. Yeah. The grain spirits are very suited for this long-term aging. Normally gets better after 21 years old, unless it's a very active cask. So this one here is from a refill barrel.
Most grains are refill casks.
A lot of them are, because it's so cheap to produce the grain whiskies, right? They're not going to invest much in a very, very good cask.
Yeah, like it's one of those things. It's cheap and cheerful, but it's like sometimes it ends up working out as being delicious.
Exactly.
Yeah, Invergordon's one of my absolute soft spot distilleries. There's been quite a few Invergordon bottlings that we've had that have been on kind of the younger side. I remember there was that. Oh yeah, there was that Highlander Inn Oishi whiskey Green. Yeah, it was like 14-year-old Invergordon. Super, super cool.
And when you see them being released so young, right? Usually it's a sherry cask, which that one was as well.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep.
Ian says it reminds me of those sweets like teeth or Dolly Beats. Okay. I've never heard of candy like that, but I'm a massive sweet tooth, so it sounds great. But yeah, Invergordon is actually really interesting for a grain distillery. Most grain distilleries are in the lowlands, they're like South Glasgow and South. Invergordon's actually like up in the far northeast of the Highlands. Especially interesting since most of the blending houses are actually based down in the lowlands in Glasgow. So it's quite an anomaly. It was only started in 1961 after the town's naval base was withdrawn. So once all the locals weren't employed at the naval base anymore, doing food, doing whatever, cleaning. All those jobs suddenly like disappeared. So they were looking to find a new industry for the town to employ all the newly redundant locals. And it sits between Glenmorangie and Dalmore. So it was sort of like, well, building a grain distillery is not a terrible idea. And they briefly had a single malt called Ben Wyvis. I'm sure some of you might have seen or heard of it. I think I've only seen one bottle ever, which was from like the last year they operated. So the single malt was produced between 1965 and 1977. But then they shut that down, focused on the grain, and those stills are now used at Glengyle Distillery down in Campbelltown, right? Yeah. No. Invergordon belongs to White and Mackay now, which is the Dalmore Jura guys. But most of the larger blending houses, like grain houses and blending houses, they've got like their own dedicated grain distilleries, and they like don't particularly like provide as much grain to other smaller companies. So Invergordon fills a lot of the smaller contracts. So for example, they do the grain for the Bladnoch Pure Scott blend. So if you've got distilleries that have a blend that they do that's a lot smaller, statistically it'll probably be Invergordon because they have the capacity and they don't have the demand as much through their own products for it. So white jelly beans, love that. So Rob, the Ardmore is the Ardlair. Ardmore and Ardlair are the same distillery. So should say Ardlair and then in brackets Ardmore. I should get to tasting this. It's got almost like a popcorn, like a very plain popcorn thing to it, like that.
Have most people tried grain whiskeys before? Something like this kind of age? Yeah, a few.
For those that don't know, single grain is just stuff that's not made from 100% malted barley. Each single grain distillery has their own mash bill. So Invergordon is quite a mixed mash bill. So they don't give a percentage, but it's generally maize, so corn, wheat, and a bit of malted and unmalted barley for Invergordon.
Yeah, so cool.
Really, lots of lolly notes on this. Huh?
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm getting a lot of like a bruised fruits as well.
Oh yeah, like when you batter an apple.
Yeah. Or like a really ripe orange kind of.
Yeah.
Without sweetness of it.
Yeah, that aroma of like sticking your nose up against an orange, where you're like you're just getting the oils on your nose and nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it's nice too, not too sharp, which grains can be sometimes. And Michael said he's tried a 43 years old Invergordon before. There was a period of time when 42, 43-year-old Invergordons were coming out. And honestly, they were the best grains I've tried as well. Sensational.
Yeah. I've always said, if you need to birth your bottle, just get a grain whiskey, because like the value for the age on it, and like the older the better. So really, really delicious. There's a film on the mouth. Josh is a big fan of the Oishi 35-year-old grain from Highlander. It made you fall down the rabbit hole. Yeah. It's one of those things, like, yes, they're designed to like pad out a blend, but they have to be really good as well. Like there's no point adding a crap grain to a blend. I mean, unless you're a massive distillery with different colored blend bottles that we shall not discuss. But yeah, no, it's such a cool thing. And I think it's honestly, like talking to a lot of like American whiskey drinkers, it's such a great way to get American whiskey drinkers into Scottish styles, because they're like, Oh yeah, I know corn, I know maize, I know this, that. So Leah's had a few Port Dundas and North British over the years. Yeah, Port Dundas is probably my personal favorite. North British is Jules from Whisky and Ailment's favorite.
No. His favorite is North Bracken.
Bracken.
North Port Bracken. Yeah.
North Port Bracken. That's it. I always get confused between the two. But yeah, that's even hard to get your hands on. But good way to start the tasting. Yeah, I reckon. Alrighty. Let's crack into the second grain whiskey of the night. The Strathclyde. It's so weird. I always like shake a little bit of whiskey out of the bottle and I'm like, it just looks so weird if I do it on camera. Take it off camera. So if you ever see like weird hand movements, I'm just filling my glass with whiskey. Oh my, it was a 50-year-old extra old particular by Douglas Lang, distilled in 1964. Amazing. You know, it is interesting. I don't know, Kelvin and Yao, if you're around, how you feel about it. Have you noticed that we're getting more old releases now? Like Benriach just released their 50 years old. Do you feel like we're getting more super old vintages hitting the market now?
In the super premium, yeah, because I think we're hitting a crest of like where pricing is starting to plateau of how much you can charge, and the barrels are not getting any younger. So if they don't bottle them now, they're gonna either go to over oaked or it's gonna be like underproof.
Yeah, I did find that really interesting, and I'm gonna ask them about it. But I noticed that Benriach says 50-year cask aged, and I'm like, it's from 1966, which was 58 years ago. So like, in 50 years cask aged, did it spend any extra time not in cask? I'm wondering if it was in holding for a little bit. So questions to ask. Yeah, in cask costs them too much now. Look, I just saw a list of casks for sale recently, and I was like, some of these are really well priced, and others are just bonkers. Not even worth a second look at the price. Josh tried the Fuji 30-year-old grain last night. Yeah, so good. Japanese grain whiskey seems to be like a much kind of more broadly consumed category, I suppose you might say. Yeah, I think that they have a palate for it better than a lot of Scottish people. But yeah, the Fuji grain is designed to be heavier than their malt. So, alrighty. Whiskey number 2, the Strathclyde. So Strathclyde is located on the banks of the River Clyde. Unsurprisingly, this is one of those Glasgow location distilleries. Super interesting. It's predominantly steam powered in every facet of the distillery. The building itself used to be an old cotton mill, just like Deanston. But when they bought it and started constructing the distillery in 1927, they expanded extensively upon the original building so they could produce large quantities of neutral grain spirit. And initially they were producing that spirit for gins. So the company that owned them at that time had a couple of gin brands, and so they would send their neutral grain spirit to the gin distillery to then flavor it, essentially. But then they pivoted in 1936 and began supplying the grain for the Long John blends, which used to have Ben Nevis and all that fun stuff in them, and it's one of my favorite blends. And I've only ever gotten to try one, but super cool stuff. And similar to Invergordon, they did have a malt distillery for a time called Kinclaith that was operated between 1957 and 1975. Very similar time frame to Invergordon's. It was that moment where the demand for single malt was so high that it was like, well, maybe we make a bit of this on the side. But after they stopped production, they got rid of it in order to make way for more grain spirit equipment. But Strathclyde is the grain distillery for the Chivas and Ballantine's blends. So yeah, it goes into those lovely, lovely, delicious ones. And I think, is it Strathclyde or Strathisla that Fuji designed their stills after? Yeah, do you remember? Kelvin?
Not too sure. I don't think it was Strathclyde though.
I think maybe it was Strathisla they designed their single malt, them like malt.
I think it would be Strathisla for the malt, the pot pills, yeah.
Yeah,
They got a lot of inspiration from America for the grain stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, hence why this is mainly wheat based.
Yeah.
A little bit less viscous than the Invergordon, I find. Leaner.
Yeah, Leo says candied peel on the palate. Ooh, yeah, like candied lemon peel.
And I think Tom mentioned there is a hint of smoke. Yeah, I got that as well earlier. Interesting.
Ian's asking if it's got a whiff of smoke and peach. Peach is another good call. It's that like syrupy tinned peach thing. Rob saying how good is Kelvin and Ya's job. Yeah, look, it's a tough life.
It's not as good as you make it out to be. Don't worry.
It's one of those things you're like, oh, that would be cool working behind a bar, and then you do it and you're like, I hate people, I hate everyone.
When people think it's fun to do distilling, it's not.
Exactly. Yeah, we were talking to Nick Christensen from Barrel's Craft Spirits yesterday, and we're like, oh, so what do you do in a day? And she's like, well, there's Excel spreadsheets and paperwork and this and that. I'm like, it all sounds like wonderful drinking time until you actually get into the nitty gritty, and it's like, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of not fun stuff in order to get to the fun stuff.
We all see the fun side of things.
Yeah, it's the illusion, as it were. No, I love it.
With the Strathclyde, yeah, really, really peculiar. I don't know where the smoke is coming from, to be honest. Yeah. Some pity cask. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Normally Strathclyde should not have that smoke there.
Yeah, that's freaking delicious. That's crazy good. And it's a birth year bottle. Maybe I'll get one. Yeah, it is. Tom finds it more earthy. Michael's getting stone fruits on the palate, specifically peaches as well. Yumbo, best tasting note ever. A drop of water makes a huge difference, Leo says. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that smoke waft is possibly like leftover cask taint, I suppose. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like when you add the water though, the smoke kind of disappears a bit.
Okay. Interesting. Good introduction if you want to get into pizza stuff. Yeah, it's got that like salinity to it, that quite salty, earthy note. But yeah. Super yummy.
Tasty.
Yeah, I'm super excited considering we have 2 grain whiskies and then the rest are all single malts. Yep. I know that when we run the poll at the end of just these 6, you can vote for your top 2. So it'll be really interesting to see how these compare. Ian, I only have a couple of drops whiskey. Anytime I taste whiskey, I tell people I'm like a mass spectrometer. Only give me the tiniest amount you think, and even less than that. I just have little bits and tasters and whatnot. That's why I tell the missus.
But this tasting was so popular, I didn't get a kit, so one of you took it, which is fine. Happy to share. And then I filled Emma's pour like 10% of what everyone else gets because for the reasons Emma just outlined. So yeah, this has been a very popular tasting.
Amazing. Well, it was bloody good value as well. Well done.
Yeah, Chris priced it very well, so great to get the Thompson brand out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. If we all cheer in $15, you can get me a bottle of Strathclyde. It's okay. I think I can get my own whiskey.
Yeah.
I appreciate it though. But yeah, or rum. But yeah, no, I'll definitely be sharing this this tasting kit with Ollie when he comes down Melbourne for Face Show. So he won't miss out. He just has to wait. And in the meantime, please make him jealous through all of the tasting notes and all the wonderful talk about the whiskies to make him very, very jealous. Yeah, amazing. Alrighty. Shall we move into the single malts? Are we ready? Are we prepared? I can't type or spell right now. So, whiskey number 3, the 1998 Speyside 24-year-old. So, Kelvin, I really have to defer to you on this one because I was not sure which Speyside it was.
Can you guys see the label properly? It's pretty small here. If you can see the label, it's pictures of a lot of like little chairs.
Let me see if we can pull it
It's a
up.
little in-house joke of theirs. So the Thompson brothers and some friends were doing a vintage whiskey tasting. Brought a whole bunch of old bottles to Glenlivet Distillery. They were tasting some vintage Glenlivets there. But when they got there, they were not given any chairs to sit on, no glasses of water. So the first secret Speyside bracket Glenlivet that they bottled, it was a picture of a chair and a glass of water on it. Just a little joke of theirs.
Love it. Let me see if
this is Glenlivet 24, guys.
Bring the image up. There we go. Yeah, so a little.
That's the one.
Old chairs.
Yep.
A pretty little pattern.
So 24 years old, single barrel, the refill barrel Glenlivet. Amazing nose, super fruity.
I haven't seen like many Glenlivet independent bottlings for a while.
not named Glenlivet, but yes,
Signatory vintage had quite a lot, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yeah, recently we don't see much.
No.
The older one will not be heavy cask.
But yeah, such a gorgeous nose, right? Fruit bomb, creamy custardy.
Yeah, so Leo said, Ian's grassy right off the nose, like driving into a farmer croft with cattle. Leo says getting a Riesling style tropical fruits. Ian was asking if anyone got black licorice. I absolutely smelled that and got those licorice cubes, all sorts, I think they're called, or whatever. Yeah, it's like the weird, I don't even know what the layers in between the licorice are.
So there's the previous one, also a Glenlivet. So it's a chair with a cat sitting on it and a watermark, from a water glass. So this was also 24 years old, but a 1997 vintage. Also a Glenlivet. Yeah.
So future reference, if you ever see a secret Speyside with a chair on the label from Thompson Brothers, it's a Glenlivet. Pretty much the go.
Yeah, that's the fruity. Marzipan is great note as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Bertie Bassett. Ian, you come up with the craziest, like randomest sweets from the UK.
That is sweet. What is that?
I'm not sure. I'm literally going to make a list of all of your weird English and British or Scottish tasting nut candies, and I'm going to go try them all when I'm there. It's a character on all sorts.
This has been obviously very, very popular. Yeah. This bottle here almost gone in 1 week.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, yeah, it's a good showcase of a well-aged malt without heavy cask influence. Like, that's crazy how light it feels for 24 years. Like, and it's not a very like dominant refill cask character. Ollie, you're definitely missing out. Josh, great call. Very oily on the taste. Like it's that oily, and then it kind of comes into this like almost, if you took a pawpaw and made candy out of it, like that tropical but funky thing. Yeah, so good. Gilly, classic Glenlivet on the nose, but not on the taste in a good way. Yeah, I think the last Glenlivet I had was probably the sponge Glenlivet, which was quite sherried. So
official bottlings usually add a lot of sherry to the older Glenlivets. But if you tried like the original releases of the Nadura,
that
bourbon
one,
or the first fill bourbon cask ones, they taste like this.
Yeah, 100%.
All about so like that pineapple tropical sweet apple note.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And it's one of those, it like the finish is short and leaves you wanting, but not in a bad way. It's a alcoholic and bungo juice. Yeah, it's sort of like it ends and you're like, oh yes, give me a little bit more of that, but it's not like a disappointing. It tapers off and you're like, now for the next sip, now for the next sip. Ollie might not get any of that one. Just letting him know now. It's delicious. Yeah. Alrighty. Shall we move on to whiskey number 4, which I am the most excited about? Number 4, Ardlair. Let me spell that right. So I think everyone in the room is pretty familiar with Ardmore whiskies. Yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Yeah, heavily, well, not heavily peated. I'd probably say medium level peat, right? Yeah. Definitely more like a Talisker, maybe a little heavier than a Talisker style. But yeah, so yeah, what I'm most excited about. Ardlair is obviously the unpeated variation of Ardmore. It takes its name from a nearby stone circle, kind of like Stonehenge. You've got these like stone structures that the early settlers and the Nordics and the Vikings and all that set up. So yeah, name comes from a nearby stone circle. The distillery itself backs onto a train line in Kennethmont, just west of Aberdeen. I'm hopefully going to make it there. But that train line was really crucial to the distillery's long-term commercial success. It became part of the Teacher's Blend, and it still is in the Teacher's Blend today. And for a really small portion of the year, they produce Ardlair unpeated run, with obviously the rest of the year is their regular Ardmore single malt. But they only started producing Ardlair around 2001, when the distillery was the last to switch from fire heated to steam heated stills. So it made it a lot easier for them to do unpeated runs. As far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, and Kelvin, all the specs are the same as regular Ardmore. It's just the peat is not there. Yeah. Yeah, cool. And yeah, because they only produce for a small time out of the year, it makes it quite a rare release. A couple have started trickling into Australia. I think there was a whiskey, what's that other Taiwanese bottle? Whiskey agency bottle ages ago, perhaps. And then there was a Douglas Lang, I think, a long time ago. And then this one. So yeah, super uncommon. Yeah. It's got this like crumpety thing, like an English muffin covered in butter.
Yep.
I've
too peaty though, this one. Interesting.
Yeah. well, I've always gotten like a smoked salty butter off of regular Ardmore that it has this butter quality to it.
Yeah.
So like that sweetness, and Ian saying sweet on the nose, like tablet. Tablet is a this one I do know, godforsaken sweet out of Scotland, which is just butter and sugar in a log. So yeah, I like very like buttery, sugary, but then you've got like a little bit of that like English muffin kind of maltiness coming through. Michael says wet campfire and into campfire smoke. Yeah,
there's a fermentation time difference for Ardmore and Ardlair.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's shorter ferment for Ardmore. And yes, 55 to versus 70 hours.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's well, like because that longer ferment will be pushing more for that kind of tropical fruit ester.
Because it's Ardlair is all for blending only. So.
Oh, is that why we don't see a lot? It's primarily for blending. You hear the music in the background or the singing.
Maybe it goes into some of the Suntory blends, you never know.
Yeah, so if you guys weren't aware, Ardmore belongs to the Beam Suntory guys. They don't shout it from the rooftops as much, sadly. There's quite a few of those like big distilleries that get kind of pushed under in their portfolio. Ian's getting dentist gas on the nose. That is.
Oh well, he'll be asleep soon enough.
Yeah. The weirdest tasting note I've ever seen. I know Scott says I've got some weird ones, but that takes the cake. Leo's looking forward to some real Scottish tablet and 10 more sleeps. I'm so jealous. Send me all the photos. Rob's asking, is that like shortbread? No, a tablet's kind of like fudge. It's yeah, just the wildest stick of diabetes you've ever tasted in your life. it's yeah, just pure sugar and butter and all things good. Yeah, like a dry fudge. Just getting tea, sweet green apples on the nose, maybe a touch of olive.
It's really good when you have a long day of drinking, especially in the morning. The kind person that was driving me around Speyside, she shared some tablet with me in the morning and like get some energy before we go on distillery tours.
I love that. Well, it's like, you know, to keep your sugar up and whatnot. I can understand that for someone who's like gets low blood sugar drops and stuff. But when the first time I ever went to Scotland, I was like staying in a hostel. This was many, many years ago. And the guy was like, you never tried a tablet? I'm like, I've got an iPad. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, I've got to get you a tablet. So we went to the nearest lolly shop in Edinburgh, and he bought a tablet, and we broke it in half and split it. And I'm there like licking it, like, he's like, you don't like it, do you? I'm like, you can't not like it because it's just butter and sugar, and it's two of the greatest things ever. But I can feel myself becoming diabetic. Like, you need to understand, I'm a sweet tooth, and this is too much sugar for me. And it is what they give kids to shut them up.
There's no balance. It's just pure sweet.
Yeah, there's no balance at all. At least with like fudge, you've got the flavors and stuff like that, and you can get flavored tablets and stuff. But I'll be in Scotland at the end of this year, and I fully look forward to traumatizing my husband with with the tablet candy. Super looking forward to that. So, but yeah, thank you, Ian. I will definitely hit you up for places in Aberdeen. I've got some places to go.
Awesome, great whiskey in Aberdeen, for sure.
Yeah. I've got a long list, and only a few weeks to complete it in. So shuffling everything around and trying to make sure. But I will say that we will be going in like right at the start of winter. So anything we can do to rug up and keep ourselves warm from the inside out, I may end up having to suffer through eating tablets just to keep myself awake. But yeah, what do we think of that one? Are we a little show of hands. Who prefers peated Ardmore? Tom, Rob, Michael. Who? Ollie. You don't get a vote, Ollie. Who's enjoying the unpeated Ardmore more than like kind of typical? Michael, you can't vote twice. Rob, you can't.
I'd say it still keeps that slight chlorine character that Ardmore normally has. You know, that has that swimming pool note usually I associate with Ardmore. Still there.
Yeah, Leo, why can't we like both? That's fair. That's very fair. I shouldn't make you choose. But yeah, no, like for me, if you get chlorine, for me, I always get butter. Like it just ranges on the butter, whether it's like margarine or like proper Lurpak type butter. So, Tom, you'll be in Scotland in September. All of you will have to give me your travel advice before I head over so that I can compress it all down and maybe knock some distilleries off the list so that I can simplify it. Rob, the tasting notes for whiskey are terrible. Chlorine, swimming pool, iodine, ash. Yeah. I mean, I once got Grandma Doilies as the tasting note. That was a rough time. Am I back? I feel like I can. Oh.
We can see you.
There we go. All right. I'm like, I can see you all moving jarringly. So I'm like, oh no, they're losing me. Josh says if you're in Stirling, spend an evening at the Curly Coo. I will say if anyone goes to Doon to see Deanston Distillery, there is the Wood End Pub and Hotel Wood something. They do the best chicken sandwiches.
Oh yeah, you were saying, yeah, you really love that sandwich.
I have not stopped talking about those chicken sandwiches, and it's been over a year. It was the best food I had the entire trip. That's including London as well. So, just saying. I had a lot of bad food though. So, but yeah, we might move on to whiskey number 5, the Tomatin Cognac cask. Just conscious of. I was really curious about this one because I think there's quite a few cognac casks coming out over the last few years. When I was in Scotland last year, I went to see the guys at Tullibardine and they had a distillery exclusive release that was a cognac cask matured or finished expression. So very interesting. I like how this tasting has turned into all the places to go in Scotland. Have to bookmark this to go back on and check. So that is an excellent question, Michael. So Kelvin, can you tell us about the Tomatin Cognac cask? Is this from maturation?
No, it's not. It was first matured in a bourbon hogshead, and it's been finished for 27 months in a cognac barrique.
It's a quite long finish.
Quite a long finish.
Rob had a Tomatin once that was quite fancy, but didn't enjoy it. So I'm particularly intrigued on your thoughts on this one. I have not had a massive amount of Tomatin, mostly their core range. They most recently in Australia were getting the Cubocken, which is the peated variation of Tomatin. Yes, oldest Japanese-owned distillery in Scotland. Yeah, so Tomatin's just over the border of the Highlands in a really remote town remote area between Avermore and Inverness. The distillery initially produced from 1897 to 1906, so not very long. But they produced for a couple of years without much hubbub, and then kind of petered out, didn't really do too much. For the next 3 years, it reopened in 1990 with new owners. And then over the decades, it was constantly expanded to become the largest malt whiskey distillery in Scotland by 1974, just became an absolute behemoth. And for those who this brain went beep beep at 1974, obviously it was terrible timing, since in 1973 there had already been the inklings of distilleries getting sold off and closed. And the writing was really on the wall for an economic downturn in the whiskey industry. So the distillery never got to the chance to run at full capacity, and it was liquidated in 1986, and then picked up by a Japanese company, well, two Japanese owners, which makes it the first Japanese-owned distillery in Scotland. Obviously, that was then followed on later by some acquisitions by Japanese-run companies, but they are the first and a much smaller Japanese ownership presence. And they've been slowly building it back up. They launched their 14-year-old expression in 2004 as like entry core range. And then they've increased the amount of core range expressions, and they focus a lot on some really interesting finishes. And yeah, like I said, they started producing the peated Cuboccan expression in 2013. And yeah, we're just starting to see it now. If you were at the Sydney show, you might have tried it last weekend. And I think it'll be coming around the rest of the country shortly. Yes, Ollie is nodding yes. I don't find out until like 2 weeks beforehand.
Not that it's very helpful, but if you ever see a Tomatin 1976 vintage, you should try that. That's the magic vintage for Tomatin.
Yeah, an absolute unicorn of a dram if you ever see it. Sure.
Oh, they're kicking around, but just that, not much easier than some other ones, because I guess no one really chases Tomatin as much. But if you see 1976 Tomatin, that's pretty special. It's like Barrique 76, like it's pretty like fruit bomb.
Yeah, well, as Ollie says, let's all just casually come across 1976 whiskies.
With grain whiskey, you can.
With grain whiskey, yeah, absolutely. Ian, that was a great call. Honeysuckle is such a good call on that. That like
definitely Brady and malty.
Yeah, Brady nose, Jewed apple, sweet and some herbs in there too, says Josh. Nice and accessible, says Rob. Leo, I also always, my brain has to like auto switch between Tomatin and Tomatil. There's too many Toms. Sorry, Tom.
Both distilleries, this is being recorded, but both really boring malts, filler malts, generally.
I think there's that thing, like there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with a boring malt if it's treated well. I think, like, I find for me personally that distilleries like Auchentoshan, which obviously like triple distills, they've got such like a neutral, nothing based spirit that like they have to treat it really well with the casks, or otherwise it just ends up tasting like cardboard soaked in whatever cask type it is. So I think that like managing to hit a nice spot with a really, like core basic, bland piece of paper, blank piece of paper, I suppose.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Cereal, slightly milky orchard fruit. Rob, I'm not in marketing, but sometimes it pops out.
Very good. You get a bit of that cognac influence coming through.
Yeah, that kind of white grape. Sweetness, like a little bit of malic acid, but not as much as you would get off of like a wine cask. But yeah, beautiful.
Like a really sugary kind of nose to it, like white sugar.
Rob is asking how big of an influence does the cognac make?
Not massive, Yeah, just a hint.
Yeah, I've personally found as well that the cognac casks I've tried are like grapey, but not so far removed from like a Riesling grapey or a Sauternes grapey kind of vibe.
I think it's more the French oak influence.
Yeah. I will say, but I find that cognac casks don't have the dryness of just French oak. Like if you just get a French oak finish or maturation, it can be quite bone dry. Whereas like once it's had cognac in it, it's a little bit more softened, I suppose.
Yep.
But, yeah.
A lot of the brandy character comes out in the finish though again.
Yeah, definitely.
Drinking some apple brandy before, and like there's a similar character in the finish that's there. Slight green vegetal fruitiness.
Yeah. Like says, it's a bit short finish, a bit disappointing. That's all right. That's fair. I definitely agree. I think it's a cheerful whiskey. It's just like there and not trying to be anything too fancy, I suppose, which I do quite like. Rob's previously I had the Talisker cognac. I have not tried that one.
Talisker cognac.
Yeah, I didn't see that one come through.
Also very subtle on the cognac.
Yeah, that's the Parlay collab.
Oh yes, no, I have heard of that. I haven't tried it. Ian's asking, does anyone use ex grappa casks? I haven't seen any of you guys.
No.
Not Scottish bottlers, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's
European bottlers that would use it.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many aged grappa, like large enough aged grappa companies as well. I can only think of the God, what are they called? It's the guys who do the Fiorente elderflower. They have a grappa side as well. I can't remember what it's called though. Nono? Something? Grappa Nonino? Is that it?
Oh, I guess Nonino does have an A. Oh, yeah. They do a grappa, yeah. But I think most of it goes into the Amaro, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. That is another interesting thing is like Amaro casks. If we'll ever see that in the future.
I don't think it's a Pochin cask, man. It's
isn't a Pochin cask? Wouldn't that just be a whiskey cask? When a Pochin goes in the barrel, it's a whiskey.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I will say your bathtub. Yeah, I will say there might be some like ex-Irish casks floating around, but I think they'd be rare as hen's teeth and they mostly stay in Ireland for the most part. But yeah, I think Ian was just reminded me the Hobart whiskey cognac release was really good. Yeah, that absolutely, that was fantastic. Yeah, I think that had a much more dominant nuttiness to it, which I think came from the cognac. And I think that's an interesting thing. Probably you guys aren't aware of what kind of cognac or which cognac brand this barrel came from.
No, we don't have that information.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. It would be really cool, and Ollie, we may have to hunt down quite a bit if we could get our hands on it, but it'd be really cool to do different cognac cask finish whiskey. So like obviously you've got Armagnac cognacs and then you've got different grape types, different regions and all that. I'm just causing more work for you, aren't I? Yes. But yeah, no, super cool, super interesting. Well, let's finish on the final whiskey of tonight. The super, I think this is probably the most sherried one we have. My brain wants to say Blair, but it's Blair Athol. Oh man.
Very cute label.
Oh, it is so cute. It's an otter.
Yeah.
That's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
So that's the mascot for the Blair Athol, especially on the flora and fauna.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So look, honestly, I was very, very excited to try this one. I didn't want to, try and sway anybody outside of the Ardlair, but
I mean, Blair Athol and sherry at a younger age just works well. Just look at the flora and fauna release. Fantastic.
Absolutely. Like it's my favorite style to drink Blair Athol in. It like is sherry cask or sherry finish or whatever. So this distillery is definitely on my list to visit, but it's based in Pitlochry. I think I'm saying that right, in the Highlands of Scotland, and the River Tay flows not too far away. The town has actually had a legal distillery since 1798, so they would have been paying much higher tariffs before the excise came in 1832. The original distillery was named Ardlair, but it changed its name to Blair Athol in 1825. I think because there was like a duke or something with the name, and it was like, well, let's win the duke's favor. But it became a malt component of the Bell's blend. Is Bell's still around, Kelvin?
Yeah, Bell's
still good.
Yeah, okay.
It's just not in those fancy decanters then.
I miss those like ridiculous church bell shaped decanters, like audacious. That is the word for it. Audacious, ridiculous, doesn't fit on a shelf. I love it. But yeah, so it was a malt that went into the Bell's blend, which at the time was the top selling blend in the UK in the 1970s. So they doubled the capacity of the distillery to keep up with demand. And eventually Bell's and Blair Athol were absorbed into Diageo. So Diageo did start releasing, like Kelvin said, the Blair Athol as part of the Flora and Fauna series. I think it's the 12-year-old is a Blair Athol. 12-year-old, yeah. It's one of my favorites. Tastes like pineapple upside down cake. They do a relatively short fermentation at the distillery, which aims for a more nutty based spirit. But I personally find that like as soon as you put it in a sherry cask, it just brings out every tropical fruit that's hiding underneath. So yeah, super, super cool. Leo, Duke of Athol, the only nobleman permitted to keep a private regiment of foot soldiers. And the current Duke of Athol lives in South Africa. Fascinating. Not enough for me to research into old white dudes, but still fascinating. But yeah. Suki toffee pudding. Macadamia nuts is a good call, Michael. I get those, you know, when you buy the milk chocolate covered macadamia nuts, I like so much of that on the nose as well. Josh is picking up modeling clay notes. Kind of love that. It's got almost like a treacle kind of thing to it as well.
Very juicy, jammy.
Pecan pie, Joel's fruit pastilles. This might be another one you don't get, Ollie. This is delicious.
How do you get? I mean, you can get the other kind of fruit pastilles here. Is it the Lifesaver brand ones? They've got that.
I don't know.
Like the grape, slightly like touch of anisey note to it.
I don't know. I've always been a peppermint girl, so I never end up with the fruit pastilles. I just like hoof down my body weight in spearmint and peppermint hard candies instead. Wine gums, Everton mince breathy before the nutty show. Yeah, I did get like a little hint of like a whiff of spearmint hiding on the nose.
That's a Blair Athol spirit because it's a very herbaceous spirit.
Yeah. It's almost like chlorophyll, the plant foody stuff, chlorophyll, not chloroform.
That's dentist gas.
Dentist gas. How are you holding up, Ian? So good. I'm curious to see what you think, yeah, but I feel like we've had like standard in every year release. Most independent bottlers have got a sherried Blair Athol. Do we find that they've got quite a lot of sherry casks at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. Because most of I think the sherry cask stuff is other than Bell's blend, where Blair Athol goes into bourbon cask, the rest of it goes into sherry cask. So there should be quite a bunch of it kicking around.
Does it make its way into any of the Johnnie Walker blends much?
Oh, it would, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's part of the sherry component of the very minimal sherry component of Johnnie Walker blends. Yeah, cool. Josh says sweet touch of ginger and spices. Yeah, good call. Like that, a little bit of that candied ginger. Slightly nutty raisins on the taste. Maybe an after eight, says Ian. Yeah, definitely like that. That after eight, that sharp mintiness that's also like, you love it. I really love mint. I went on a whole tangent about how peppermint is different in Australia last night to Nick, and yeah, it was a rabbit hole. But yeah, amazing. Ian says wine gums, caramelized burnt brown sugar notes. Yeah, it kind of flits between that, like that when you have a mint and you like breathe out and you're like, oh, fresh. It's got like, it's wavering between that and then that sweet, nutty, chocolatey, all that. Josh is onto the Dailuaine after this, but yeah, everyone obviously is more than welcome. I highly recommend the rums will be a great addition after this as well. But I think, Ollie, that is the 6 that we have selected for tonight. So we might run the poll and see what the favorite out of your 6 picks was. I'm curious to see because they're all like very
Invergordon and Speyside, probably.
Distinct, yeah. So you guys obviously are co-hosts, so you can see the results as they come, but keep it hush hush until the end. But yeah, I'm super curious because they're all very distinct, very different, but like very fascinating. And we'll have to go through. Maybe we can chat about it on the Whisky List Facebook page or something about what our picks from the other 6. I could not count for a second there. About what the other 6 whiskies are. And yes, as Ollie has just showed, thank you for remembering, we have a discount on all the Thompson Brothers that we've got in the TWL shop tonight. So if you wanted to chat about that, Ollie.
Yeah, we've got heaps of, I think we took one of everything, basically, what you guys brought in recently. So some are obviously more popular than others. Go after your favorites, enjoy. There's so many great whiskies. And I was just going to say, should we quickly do the Craigellachie? Because that was the one we decided not to include. And I was very keen to hear people's thoughts on it.
All right. For Ollie, we'll try the Craigellachie.
Sure, this was the Craigellachie was quite popular at the Whiskey and Dreams show for those who attended.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Honestly, I was so busy talking about sponge, I did not even get around to chat. And
you brought so many bottles there.
Yes, I absolutely did. If anyone who wasn't at the Whiskey and Dreams show in Melbourne, we brought how many, Ollie? Like 17 different whiskey sponge bottles.
Crazy.
Yeah, something ridiculous. It was Angus challenged us to break records. So.
And you got the cool shirt.
Yeah, nothing under the table.
It's a very cool shirt. This Craigellachie is wild on the nose. It's gonna sound really psychotic, but grilled chicken. It's got that, like, when you grill a chicken with just like salt and pepper and it gets that like kind of semi-sweet crust on it. I sound like a crazy person. But it's like meatiness, but it's a light meatiness, like a white meat. Like almost erring towards like a pork fat, but not quite that. Yeah, maybe like lemon chicken a little bit, Ian. Or just like lemon chicken without lemon sauce on it yet. A bit of garlic. Yeah. It definitely gets like more proper lemon, like a charred proper lemon towards the palate, I find. But yeah, super, super cool. Yeah, Craigellachie is one of those ones for me where it's quite funky and sulfury. It's one of those sulfurous distilleries, I suppose. But yeah, kind of alongside Ben Rinnes and Aultmore. Aultmore is another kind of funky, sulfury one. But yeah, that refill Hogshead's really toned it out. Ooh.
Ian finds it lighter. I thought it was quite rich and malty, you know, quite good texture on the palate.
I think it's like it's definitely there, but it's not oily in a way that I would kind of say is heavy. But I definitely get kind of like a little bit of the maltiness. It's definitely the handful of barley grains in your hand kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot of that raw barley kind of.
Raw barley. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So yeah. Leah's going to compare this to another Craigellachie refill. But yeah. We'll say yes. It seems very light. I will say the Dailuaine looks really light for a PX finish. Now Kelvin's going to find the bottle.
Dailuaine is not PX finish. It's a refill hog.
Different Dailuaine.
Which Dailuaine do you have?
You got the Badger one, I think, yeah?
I don't know. The 2010 12-year-old?
Yep, it's a refill hog.
Ah, that might be a typo on our end then.
Yeah,
good to catch that now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we might drum roll, end the poll, share the results. The space side came out on top, and honestly, yeah, I don't blame you. That was really cool.
That one
really cool. And then the grain whiskies.
The Strathclyde and the Invergordon.
Yeah, came streaming out the gate, and then the Ardlair, you know, pulling up the rear, dragging along the Tomatin and the Blair Athol. I will say I did really like the Tomatin, but only because I get the feeling it's not a thinker's dram. And like a lot of whiskeys for me are thinking whiskeys. Like, you know, I want to dissect them in my brain. The Tomatin, my brain just wants to be like, tasty juice. And it's, you know, I don't have to really think about it. My brain doesn't need to dissect it. But yeah, Ollie's asking, we're happy with the 6 we selected. You know, thumbs up. Yeah, please share your feedback on the other 6 whiskies and rums on social media, and I will get my notes on all the other ones out to Ollie so that we can send them out to everyone in a follow-up email. But I think that's probably it for us tonight. Thank you for coming to the first mega double
really
back
crazy.
to back. I don't really know what we're gonna call it. We're sure we'll come up with a funner name than double virtual. But yeah, so thank you everyone for coming along tonight. Yes, please do share your thoughts on the other 6 with us. And we will see you at the next virtual tasting. So take care, everyone. Kelvin, if you guys wanted to hang on for a little bit.
Thanks for all the support. The Thompson Brothers brand.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the drams.
Yep.